The James Show Podcast.
Now, something's wrong when you enjoy the news media this much. The news media is not supposed to be an entertainment source, but damn if it hasn't just been funny as hell. And a lot of people say that they don't want sensational news outlets that have, big explosions and sound effects. And every time there's a news headline, it's like you're sitting in front of a slot machine and it has to do like beeps and flashes and, explosions like that. It's not supposed to be entertaining. Real, unbiased, unvarnished news is supposed to look like C-SPAN, and you don't want that because we know what C-SPAN's ratings are. They're in the toilet. They're even worse than Casey's show. I'm kidding. It's a joke there. I mean, they are worse than Casey's show. But that's what real, unbiased, professional journalism looks like, C-SPAN. You don't really want it. But on the far other end of the spectrum is kind of what we have with the old news. Some people call it the mainstream media. Some people call it the legacy media. I've just started calling it the old news. But let me give you an example here of what I'm talking about. So you already know, unless this is your first time listening to the show, I can get you all caught up. The media's job, or the old media's job, they present themselves as a news outlet. We're supposed to go out there and find the news that matters to you and your family the most. The stuff that affects your pocketbook, affects your family, affects your work, affects the economy. We're supposed to go get to the bottom of these stories, keep an eye on what the politicians and your corporate bettors are doing, and report back to you the information that you need. But in reality, in practice, it seems the mission, the playbook of so many platforms is to go out and find the piece of information that makes their political opponents look the worst, and that's the headline. Now, they're in a tough spot after this Iran bombing. So how do you criticize the Iran bombing? If your job out there is to go make Donald Trump or Pete Hegseth, and I don't want to make this all about Trump because this happened under Bush and Reagan, and this will happen under the next guy. So let's not make this about Trump derangement syndrome. Let's just make this about they have to go out there and find whatever story makes their political opposition looks the worst. Even if they did something good, we've got to find an angle that we can report that degrades people's opinion of our political opponents. So in the Iran bombing, there's a couple of angles that they could have hoped to have. Maybe if there was an escalation, they could say the Iran bombing was a mistake because it didn't help anything, make things worse. Well, it's been almost a week now, and things are a little more tranquil than they were before the bombing. So they don't have that. They could say, well, yeah, the bombing happened, but it wasn't effective. Yeah, that's the ticket. And so how is it not effective? Did they miss their target? Did the bombs fail? Did the uranium get all moved out and all the equipment and all the centrifuges get moved to a new facility? Did they bomb the wrong facilities? Did they bomb just a small fraction of there's got to be, some angle or some level of detail to that. If you're going to make the claim, doesn't there? No, not really. And then you find, well, can we break down the way the bombing was executed? And there's an attempt there. This is just an incredible question that Pete Hegseth got. Hey, you said, congratulations, we're proud of our boys. Why aren't you giving any credit to the female pilots that were involved? Really?
So why not acknowledge the female pilots that also participated in this mission? The early messages that you sent out only congratulated the boys.
All right, so there's that. Let me play you. This is how the View started today. There's a leaked report from the intel community that said Trump may have only set back the Iran nuclear program by a matter of months, which I have heard the full context of. There was a report that was leaked where their job is to say, well, what's the best case scenario and the worst case scenario before we actually can go dig around and get better intelligence on whether or not the bomb was effective. Just from looking at the pictures in the sky, what's the best case scenario? What's the worst case scenario? And the worst case scenario was we missed our target. It didn't collapse. And at worst, we only set back the program a few months. That was the worst case scenario based on the limited information we have just from satellite pictures. And so they're going with that. And it's not like they're saying that with confidence or a high probability. They don't even think that's what happened. They think in the worst case scenario, the possible, not probable, but I mean possible worst case scenario is it wasn't effective and we only set them back a few months. But they're acting like that was the result of the report And so you have Joy Behar just taking that and running with it to open The View today.
A leaked U.S. intelligence report that claimed the U.S. missile strike did not destroy Iran's nuclear program. And President Trump and his defense secretary, Pete Hegseth, are in a state over this. Watch.
Yeah, and so then they go to cuts of Trump not sounding awesome, saying negative things, not praising the pilots, not praising the efficacy, just going off.
It was an unbelievable hit by genius pilots and genius people in the military, and they're not being given credit for it because we have scum that's in this group, and not all of you are. You had some great reporters, but you have scum. CNN is scum. MSDNC is scum. The New York Times is scum. They're bad people. They're sick. It was obliteration.
And he's not wrong. But he's not. This is what he has to talk about now because they keep bringing up these questions. Well, look, we found someone that said it wasn't effective. Or, oh, what about the slight to the female pilots? Why do you have to be so misogynistic? I'm surprised they hadn't accused him of racism. So if they're going to be so hacky, then we'll happily fill in the gaps for them, and we get an assist with some of these foreign policy issues. Dr. Jeffrey Brodeur from Rigaku has been a reliable source on some of these issues. Welcome back to the show, Dr. Jeffrey. From people that you know and then sources that are talking, what do we know about the efficacy of the strikes on Iran?
Well, thank you very much for inviting me back. That it's about as good as it gets. That's about as perfect of a targeted strike as you can possibly get. And you know, the everything about this mission has been by design for at least the last 10 to 15 years. Our experts have watched with a keen eye as Iran developed all of their nuclear facilities, satellite imagery, measurement and signature intelligence. They made some estimates and deducted that we didn't have the right weaponry in order to mitigate that threat. So that bomb, that bunker busting bomb, the primary reason it was developed was for this mission. It was tested and retested, and it performed magnificent, and the air crews did the same.
Well, Jeffrey, you could understand why some people are skeptical because this is a lot of what we were told before we went into Iraq. We said, see these satellite images? I famously remember Colin Powell being in front of the UN. See these aluminum tubes? See these little facilities here? This is specifically for the weapons of mass destruction or whatever the claim was. And it turned out some of that wasn't necessarily true. So people have a reason to be skeptical about the folks saying, well, we knew exactly what this was.
No, I don't disagree. And I mean, some of these were not purpose-built facilities. What I mean by that is I don't think the Fordow facility originally was designed for anything but the Iranian Republican Guard sort of formation. And they switched it out. They changed the purpose for enriching uranium, probably modified it just a little bit with a support network to complement it. But you bring up a good point when you raise the issue that led us into Iraqi freedom. And honestly, since then, the intel agencies have changed their practice. And this is what made me skeptical when I heard news agencies word choosing what they wanted to say about the report. Our intel experts now will give us a confidence rating. It'll either be low, medium, or high, and the confidence rating will be justified with sources and multiple sources for high confidence rating. That was a big lesson learned. It avoids people interpreting a statement on an intel document as an assessment from being true to giving you an honest answer. You know, I'm 70% confident this is the way it is because of these are my sources and this is what they say. So it puts things in perspective.
All right, we're talking with Dr. Jeffrey Brodeur from Rigaku. He's a chemical, biological, radiological, nuclear consultant. What about this contention? It's on MSNBC just a minute ago that the uranium may have been removed from the facilities before the strike.
Yeah. First of all, I don't know that we know that. Second of all, so what is my response? It was enriched to 60%. Our little boy bomb that we dropped in World War II, that enrichment was 80%. So you don't need to get to 90%, but enriching uranium is not like adding 2 eggs and a cup of milk and stirring. It's the separation of uranium isotopes, 235 and 238. That takes a long time. That's a huge effort. And to put it in perspective, uranium, enriched uranium, is drawn from uranium ore, and on average, uranium ore on the Earth that occurs naturally is about 0.7% of that is uranium-235, or the enriched isotope. Right. So in other words, I've got to harvest 1,000 pounds of uranium ore to get 7 pounds of enriched uranium, or uranium-235. That's a monumental task. It was 60%. It's as good as a rock. I mean, you're not starting out at 1%, but that causes me absolute no alarm if it were true.
All right. So do we know anything more about Iran's response? Was that little missile attack the end of it? Have they done anything since then?
In my best read, based on my sources, is that they're in regime survival mode. The Ayatollah is taking a page out of Joe Biden's, stay in the basement policy. And is still in some hiding position. They're licking their wounds right now. They're in a really, really bad place. They've been humiliated. The Iranian military leadership has essentially been decapitated. The Air Force and air defenses have been destroyed. They're at best combat ineffective. I don't know what they did with their fast boats and their Navy, but none of those seem to move. And then their proxy organizations, Hamas, Houthi, and Hezbollah, did absolutely nothing to raise a finger in support, and neither did Russia or China or North Korea. All of that band of brothers, if you will, that axis of evil, did absolutely nothing to help them out. I think right now they are crippled. They certainly don't have the material to put together a nuclear weapon in hours or days anymore. And they're licking their wounds. And again, regime survival, I think, is their primary priority of work.
Well, a lot of people who are embedded, in the security or an intelligence apparatus, a lot of people who have access to information that the rest of us don't get to see. Have you heard any reports about anybody in the network news saying anything nice about Trump? If we can get to the bottom of that, I think, that's the biggest mystery. Like, well, what is it? Why can't they just say one nice thing? Like, this was a good bombing. I don't like the guy. He's evil. He's literally Hitler, but this was a legit bombing.
Yeah, a friend of mine once told me the First Amendment allows knuckleheads to make an ass of themselves on the national stage, and that's kind of what's happening there. I mean, at best, I think this is disinformation. That's the manipulation of information to fit your objective. Mm-hmm. And I will tell you, I have personal issue with the New York Times publishing a classified document. I'm not a lawyer. I don't know that crossed a red line. If it didn't, I think we need to change our laws that prohibit that sort of thing. That was at best irresponsible. I certainly understand the ladies on The View reading it and coming up with their own narrative. I mean, that's par for the course for them. And CNN and NBC, MSNBC, I watched those interviews. They were surgical questions because they were trying to generate a narrative to fit their position.
Yeah, with the daddy question and whatnot.
They showed their true colors. I mean, there was no hiding what their objective was.
Well, I totally agree with all of that. Thank you, Dr. Jeffrey Brodeur from Rigaku Analytical Devices. He's a chemical, biological, radiological, nuclear consultant, and we'll probably have him on a semi-regular basis until there's world peace forever, which means you'll probably hear from him again soon. Pete Hegseth, your defense secretary, has some good news. We did a bomb on the Iranian nuclear facilities. It looked good. There hasn't been any retaliation. I mean, the minimal little 14 missile attempt that happened at the beginning of the week. So it looks like here we are Thursday, still in the clear. Ceasefire not only declared, but holding. This is wildly successful. Even when we were spelling out the spectrum on what would we consider a good strike or a bad strike last week, we are on the optimistic side of that speculation here on a Thursday after the strike. But since the media has to cheer against Trump, no matter what they do, I'm going to play 2 cuts from Pete Hegseth talking. And early this morning, man, this was right after I woke up. I hadn't even turned on my laptop, or actually, this is when I turned on my laptop. This is the first thing I saw is they're doing a live speech this morning at like 7 o'clock our time. Now, granted, they're in the East Coast, so he had a press conference at 8 in the morning. So this is fresh stuff. First, the female pilot's question. I played the question earlier. I'm going to play his response here because they've just got to dig. They've got to find something bad about it. Well, we heard it wasn't effective. Well, we heard it's going to make things worse. Well, we heard they moved the uranium. Well, you said, good job, boys, and you totally disregarded and demeaned and dehumanized the female pilots on the job. Here's the answer, too.
So why not acknowledge the female pilots that also participated in this mission? The early messages that you sent out only congratulated the boys.
So when I say something like our boys and bombers, see, this is the kind of thing the press does, right? Of course, the chairman mentioned a female bomber pilot. That's fantastic. She's fantastic. She's a hero. I want more female bomber pilots. I hope the men and women of our country sign up to do such brave and audacious things. But when you spin it as, because I say our boys and bombers as a common phrase, I'll keep saying things like that, whether they're men or women. Very proud of that female pilot, just like I'm very proud of those male pilots. And I don't care if it's a male or a female in that cockpit, and the American people don't care. But it's the obsession with race and gender in this department that's changed priorities. We don't do that anymore. We don't play your little games.
See, he sounds like me when I'm talking to my kids, probably you when you were talking to your kids, and you're telling them something for the 100th time, maybe the 1,000th time, and he's just exhausted with it. When I say boys in the bombers, of course I include girls. It's just a rhetorical flourish. It wasn't meant to demean or demoralize or denigrate or otherize the females who were involved on the exact same mission. You people, they just have to find something to say bad about the mission because it's got Trump on it.
Because you, and I mean specifically you, the press, specifically you, the press corps.
Get him, Pete.
Because you cheer against Trump so hard. It's like in your DNA and in your blood to cheer against Trump. Because you want him not to be successful so bad, you have to cheer against the efficacy of these strikes. You have to hope maybe they weren't effective. Maybe the way the Trump administration has represented them isn't true. So let's take half-truths, spun information, leaked information, and then spin it. Spin it in every way we can to try to cause doubt and manipulate the public mind over whether or not our brave pilots were successful. How many stories have been written about how hard it is to, fly a plane for 36 hours? Has MSNBC done that story? Has Fox? Have we done the story how hard that is? Have we done it 2 or 3 times so that American people understand? How about how difficult it is to shoot a drone from an F-15 or 16 or F-22 or F-35? Or what it's like to man a Patriot battery? Or how hard it is to refuel midair? Giving the American people an understanding of how complex and sophisticated this mission really was. There are so many aspects of what our brave men and women did that because of the hatred of this press corps are undermined because your people are trying to leak and spin that it wasn't successful. It's irresponsible.
Hey, man, I love that. World needs more of that. And it fits, they fit the caricature of themselves perfectly. If you go over to MSNBC right now, their top story is from those last 2 sound bites, the press conference that was held this morning by Pete Hegseth. You want to know what the headline says about the press conference? Pete Hegseth holds weird press conference, but satisfies his audience of one. Of all the important information that press conference was dealing with, we're talking about the Secretary of Defense. You could have had a headline or a question or a line of questioning that addressed some of the serious issues that are being dealt with here. You know, price of oil, Straits of Hormuz. Will this affect trade? How is China and Russia taking the news? What's going on with the blockade? What's going on with the fissile material? What's going on with Iran's response? What's going on with the talks that are happening now on terms to continue the ceasefire? No, none of that. None of that. The headline, Pete Hegseth holds weird press conference, but satisfies his audience of one. What do you know about the press conference that he just held? Anything? It was weird. It satisfied his audience of one, which I guess is Trump or whatever. You didn't learn anything about the actual content of the press conference. You're just supposed to walk away thinking it was weird and it was, I don't know, sycophantic toward Donald Trump. God, the media is so fun to watch. Like, I don't even get upset anymore because you know it's coming. I know you're not upset either. But they just can't say one nice thing about the guy. And I had a caller like that yesterday. Some guy called in. What was his, like, Craig from Dallas? I even pulled it. I might put it on YouTube because I wanted to hear it myself. And he just couldn't say one nice thing about the guy. It's so emotional. It's so illogical. And they got to get up and they got to do the dance every day. And it's turned into just a fun little hobby for you and me. It's like, oh, we had a successful strike. Well, they must be having a hard time over on MSNBC. Let's see how they deal with this. Well, you didn't congratulate the women. Really? That's all you got? You must have done great. Coming up next on The James Show, you're going to love this. Another episode of What the Heck Did Jasmine Crockett Say This Time? You're going to hear her question Melania Trump's immigration status next. 800-288-9227, 800-288-9227. I'm James Parker on News Talk 820 and 93.3 FM WBAP.
Lipscomb, he left it out there. Proctor steps in front. Proctor to swing. Layup goes and one. Flag on the attack on the slam. And a foul. Oh, my.
Welcome, Cooper, to DFW. You're going to love it here.
News Talk 820 WBAP.
And now on FM at 93.3.
The first house I bought, I had it for a few years. And when I sold it, you know, with the price increase that it had, plus the equity I paid down, I got back almost half of what I had made in payments. That's what I walked away with. This is how you build wealth, owning a home, getting out of the rent race, building equity. When you're ready to buy or sell a house, this is the only guy you need to think of. Bob Lavelle, 972-392-9595. Bob Lavelle has the classic website, blessyourheart.com, or call 972-392-9595. You are just in time for today's episode of What the Heck Did Jasmine Crockett Say This Time?
Jasmine Crockett, queen of the liberal tea.
Bleach blonde, bad built butch body, Governor Hot Wheels, and he is a hot ass mess, honey.
Queen of the liberal tea.
Thank you very much. And I got an email from, I think it was Lawrence, a couple days ago, and he said, what time does What Does Jasmine Crockett Say come on every day? And I was like, well, it doesn't come on every day, but it has come on quite a lot lately, and we don't have a set time for it. Maybe it should be a daily thing. It just, look, I know the second I make it a daily thing, she's going to go radio silent for a week and make me look like a fool. But no, she's been giving us a lot of ammo lately, and I want to stress a couple of things. Don't buy the popular train of thought that she's dumb. She's not dumb. She's playing the media. We know she can speak more intelligent than this. We know she can pronounce and conjugate her words better than this. We know she is choosing to thicken up her accent in certain situations and clean it up in other situations, code switching. And I think she's doing a wonderful job of it. She is my number one pick for who I think is going to be on the Democrat ticket in 2028. Don't laugh. Don't laugh. You think this sounds silly, but to the point of view of people who think Trump's literally Hitler, this is working, and it's working good. So yesterday, she said a clip. I heard it, and I'm like, well, I guess she's going to be on the show tomorrow. Jasmine, questioning Melania Trump's immigration status.
Since we're talking about integrity, I'm confused as to why my Republican colleagues aren't talking about the lack of integrity when it comes to the president's family's visas. Let me remind y'all that Melania, the First Lady, a model, and when I say model, I'm not talking about Tyra Banks, Cindy Crawford, or Naomi Campbell level, applied for and was given an EB-1 visa. And what that stands for is an Einstein visa. Now, y'all that don't know, let me tell you how you receive an Einstein visa. You're supposed to have some sort of significant achievement, like being awarded a Nobel Peace Prize or a Pulitzer, being an Olympic medalist, or having other sustained extraordinary abilities and success in sciences, arts, education, business, or athletics. Last time I checked, the First Lady had none of those accolades under her belt. It doesn't take an Einstein to see that the math ain't mathin' here.
Yeah, so the math ain't mathin' here. Jasmine Crockett questions Melania Trump's immigration status. That's fantastic. Can we get more people on the record who agree with her to please question Melania Trump's immigration status? Because I love the juxtaposition of our people on Team Blue going out in the media fighting tooth and nail to get Abrego Garcia back into America. He deserves to be here, but not Melania Trump. The guy who's a member of MS-13, who's literally indicted on human trafficking charges, who beats his wife, who had a protective order against him. That guy, the guy who wasn't born here, never had citizenship here, still a national, a citizen of El Salvador. Some guy who belongs in prison, whichever side of the border he's going to end up on. You'll go fight for this guy to be in America, but question Melania Trump's immigration status. Please continue down that road. I don't think that's going to have the effect that you hope it had. This concludes today's episode of What Did Jasmine Crockett Say This Time?
Jasmine Crockett, queen of the liberal tea.
Bleach blonde, bad built butch body, Governor Hot Wheels, and he is a hot ass mess, honey.
Queen of the liberal tea.
The I Want My 80s tour features Rick Springfield. Will be coming to Music Hall at Fair Park July 20th. That's less than a month away. Special guest John Waite, Wang Chung, and Paul Young. Get tickets and information at livenation.com or listen to the WBAP morning show. Tomorrow will be your last chance to win tickets from my buddies on the morning show. Hal, Ernie, Carla, the whole crew. Listen to them. Maybe we can get you some tickets on the house. Also, if you're looking for something to do this weekend, I will be doing comedy at Hyenas in Dallas, opening for the great Alex Stein. Doors at 6. Show starts at 7. And you can come out there, say hi, because this will count as our June listener meet and greet. And so for some people, we're asking, hey, can we hang out afterwards? That's a little early for me, or I don't want to pay to go to a comedy show, or what if it sells out before I get there, or whatever. I don't know. If there's going to be an after party, we'll figure it out and put it online. But I have nothing planned as of now. Coming up next on The James Show, if the GOP establishment likes John Cornyn, but you Texan voters don't, well, then who will they choose to run against Ken Paxton for senator? My prediction next on The James Show. News Talk 820 and 93.3 FM, WBAP.
The James Show Podcast.